I think about these things. I should just go, hi, everyone, and welcome to a brand new PodStallions. I'm Brian, and with me right next door is Jason. Say hello, Jason.
Hello, Jason.
Oh, I'm so glad you did that. We've got a new episode, and it's we've been told by people that they missed us, so that's wonderful, and we thought we'd do one right away. This episode is all about conventions and toy shows and that sort of thing, and we thought we'd share positive stories, but more importantly, we thought we'd share some negative stories because they're more fun.
Yeah, they end up being more funny as time goes on, I think.
So, my first experience with convention was in the 80s. I would assume it was the same with you, right, Jason?
Yes, it was. It was. Yes, it was. It was. Conventions were something that I thought were mythical growing up in the Twin Cities.
Starlog magazine.
Starlog magazine, and I think you and I both were reading Doctor Who Monthly at the time, as it was called.
Religiously.
Yes, we'd get it from the creepy newsstands that we could find in town, and there were pictures in there of things. Yeah,
I actually got it from a place called Unicorn Comics, and I eventually, I got caught up, and I eventually couldn't pay for my file. And years later, I was in a karate class with that said shop owner, who all was forgiven, thank God.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a small world.
Yeah.
Well, I used to have to go to. I think I've told this story before, but if I have, try to enjoy it again and pretend I haven't. It was a friend of my cousin David, who I've mentioned many times on the show.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone with him once, and we were talking about Doctor Who. And he's the kid who said, well, it's in that magazine. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, there were toys. They made toys one time. I said, what do you... I was about 11 or 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't know what he was talking about. And he said, yeah, I saw it in the magazine. I said, what magazine? And he told me Doctor Who Monthly. He told me about this magazine that I didn't believe him. I thought he was just being a jerk, but it turned out to be a real thing. And he said, you can go to Shinder's to find it. And anyone that knows the Twin Cities, if there's anybody listening that does, there was a chain of Shinder's stores. And what was interesting about Shinder's is one of them was downtown St. Paul, which was the closest one to our house, but it was also a really creepy area of downtown. And Shinder's, like the first half of the store was periodicals and newspapers and imports and things like that. The back half of the store was all really, really creepy adult stuff. Like a lot of adult stuff. So, if my dad or my brother would take me, they'd be like, you stay up and stay in this, just up here, get your thing, and we'll, and Shinder's was kind of, at the time was associated with, porno mags and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but that was the first.
This is a really gross story, but there was a store like that in Toronto, and I remember I just wandered too far. I was like 19 years old, and there was a movie. And I picked up the box, and it was like a manathon. And I turned the back, and it was like, oh, animathon. And I was never the same. I was never the same, sir.
Yeah, I used to work I worked at a video store that had a porno section in the back, and you'd have to put the movies back on the shelf, and you'd see these guys back there reading the back of the box, to read the story. And I think, if you don't recognize the cover, just grab it. What are you reading the back for? To see who the cinematographer was and what Shakespeare play was based on? Just get it. If you don't know the cover, just get it.
Funny story. I have a friend who actually was a clerk in an adult video store, and we were talking a little bit last week, and he said, "Wow, if you don't like dealing with the public, that's a place to go because nobody gives you any crap. Like they just want to get." They get in and get out. There's no chit chat.
No.
he said it's actually a pretty good job if you don't like dealing with people.
Well, the embarrassing bit, and I might have told this before a long time ago too, I don't know, is being at the checkout. And one time I was up there, and it was a different colored case for the video cassette for the adult stuff than it was. Which was weird of them to do, because once you see that maroon cover, everybody knows what you're walking out of the video store with. And I had graduated high school, And one of my ex-professors, walks in, and he's got like 3 of these, and I'm just having, hey, Mr. Durant, how you doing? It's good to see you. How's everything? Yeah, and he sort of tried to ask me about school or whatever, and I'm checking out three pornos for this guy that was my teacher. Or you'd have to call. It was a big call list for things that were overdue, and you'd have to call people and say, yeah. And I got this mother one time, and I said, you've got a copy of Sailors in Bondage, or whatever the hell the name was, And she's like, I don't think so. I think that would never be. I said, yeah, I think, did Billy check it out? Billy's my son. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but there is, and it had been out for months, and she freaked out because she realized that her son was renting pornos and keeping them, apparently, because it never came back.
Well, you know what? I was... not that it was Sailors in Bondage. I believe it was the film 2069, which was softcore.
But, that's a great one. I know that one. It's a sequel to 2068, I think.
Yeah, yes, it was. I kept it a day late, and they called, and not only did I get busted, but my dad's like, let's watch this together. Oh, God.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I don't know how
You're kidding me.
Yeah,
it was me.
It was just a softcore sex romp, but yeah, that I've shared that on the website before. And then he drove me to the video store to return it an hour later, and he drove me in the biggest car he owned. Like, he was like, "Let's go in the biggest, loudest car."
Wow.
Which doesn't matter to anyone else except me. Like, he just let me take my 1970s Cadillac with the convertible, that's more of a personal thing. It was like a big red Lego brick being driven back with this adult
he was trying to teach you a lesson to watch the movie together. I hope you learned your lesson after that.
Yeah, we didn't.
After the nightmares. But see, what other show?
My old man made me watch Porky's with him.
Oh God, that's awful.
Yeah.
No, if there was any kind of nudity, I was the kid that sort of immediately felt, weird, like, oh my God, my parents are in the room. An episode of Monty Python, and there were breasts, and I just went, like, I shouldn't be in the room with that.
It was Gilligan and the Skipper in that department in my house.
What other podcast could you be listening to where we start with our
that has
convention
completely just veered off,
completely turned into
around.
Our early experiences with pornography? I say that's worth all the money, all the price of admission. Anyway, so that was where I
hope I don't run for office anytime soon. So
I get that, and that's what sort of made me see conventions in the magazine and then Starlog. So conventions were very, very alien because I could never find anything in the Twin Cities. It felt like it only happened in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago or San Diego or something, and we didn't get anything. And so my first one was in Philadelphia. My brother Jack was going to law school.
College there, right?
Yeah, he went to Rutgers Law School in New Jersey. And so we went out for a visit. My dad and I must have been 14 maybe, went for a visit, and there was a Doctor Who convention in Philadelphia at the same time. So
that was around the time that JNT was like jumping across the like he was coming to the United States almost every weekend, wasn't he, at that time?
Right. And this was Mary Tam was the guest, and I met her and got a picture with her, which is an embarrassing photo because I've got a mustache. I didn't want to shave my peach fuzz. And then Merritt Buttrick, and I've got a picture with him too. Sadly, both people are no longer with us. But that was my first. And I was an idiot because everyone was waiting in line for an autograph, and I just came up around her and was like, is it okay to get a picture? And then my dad snapped a photo. Did the same thing with Merritt Buttrick. And people were looking at me like, what are you doing, asshole? There's a line to get. I mean, I didn't know any better.
Yeah, but you were asking outrageously, and you got what you did. Why feel guilt?
Right.
No one's sitting in their basement going, that kid,
well, maybe. But I remember Mary Tam being spectacular, absolutely spectacular.
She was gorgeous,
man. Going into the dealer's room then was the very first time that I saw things like the Palatoy talking Dalek, and it was the very first time I saw any kind of Doctor Who merchandise like that I'd seen in the magazine in person at this convention. So that was about 84 or so, I think it was. So that was my very first convention. What was yours?
My first one, I got into the Doctor Who club in like the 8th grade.
Okay.
And they had a con in Kitchener, and it was I think it was 85. I want to say it's like 85. They had Jon Pertwee was the guest, and it was in Kitchener,
wow.
which is about 2 hours away from where I live now and where I lived as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 other friends into Doctor Who, and in fact, I'm still in touch with one of them, TJ. Hey.
Hey, TJ.
And I think we talked about this in the first show we ever did, but we talked one of the kids' dads into driving us and spending the night in Kitchener.
Oh, wow.
And meeting, doing the con, and then driving back the next day. It was pretty. It was, we all shared a hotel room, and I got to tell you, like, first off, the dealer's room, which probably had 4 tables, was like mind blowing. There was the local comic book store. There was a woman selling like handmade Tom Baker scarves, and she was making these stuffed Cybermats from the Revenge of the Cybermen that were really cool.
Oh, wow!
I remember I bought one, I think. And then there was a guy with like memorabilia. I bought a Space 1999 magazine off the guy that had Martin Lando's signature in it. He had 45s. I bought a Not the 9 O'Clock News 45.
Oh,
just,
wow!
Like crazy weird. He had a Wurzel Gummidge doll. I remember the from your favorite company, Bendy Toys. He had
the Bendy one. The Bendy one. They made him and Aunt Sally and somebody else. That Bendy company, right?
So we hung out there all day. Like I would never, now I would walk in and out of this convention. And I have a funny story going back. But the highlight was, of course, Jon Pertwee. And I'm pretty sure I've told this story before, but we went to the con suite after, and we were watching Monster of Peladon, and I'm sitting on a couch by myself. Jon Pertwee just strolls in, sits his ass down next to me for an hour, and we talked about what we were watching on screen. He was completely, he was a completely extroverted human being. Mm-hmm. And I'm 14 years old talking to my favorite doctor, and he's completely convivial. And I remember when we were going to bed, because it was like 11 o'clock or whatever.
Wait! You went to bed with Jon Pertwee?
No, I did not go to bed. We got sent. We got basically locked in our room by this guy's dad. And, my friend said to me, well, you've had your dream, haven't you? And it was like, yeah, that was. How am I going to top that?
Well, because when you're, especially if it's like look, I'm not one to sort of get quote starstruck. There've been a few times in my life, especially living in Los Angeles and working here in the industry and stuff like that. If somebody comes, like if I met Paul McCartney, I think I would turn to jelly, pretty much, But it's cool meeting people that their work, because the way we remember things, you can say, oh, weren't you the bartender in the movie that, and people love that, the character actors and stuff. But being 14 or 15 and suddenly being around something, being around someone like that suddenly the wall comes down. It's a real freaky thing. I can't imagine
they're
that.
Also they're not an asshole.
Right.
He was a quality human being. He was just completely sincere, and not everybody. Mileage varies on that. You never want to meet your heroes, but that was like wow, and it only went downhill from that. There were peaks and valleys.
Yeah, you can't top that.
You can't top that. And it was a wonderful start. I can't imagine if my hero was somebody different. I'm not going to name names of people who have kind of pissed me off over the years, but that was just fantastic. And it, of course, set me on this kind of life of, conventions were fun. And they were fun places to find, I think I went really to the toy show side of things just a couple years later. I ended up stopped going to conventions, and I started going to toy shows, which are completely different stories.
Yeah.
But I would always go to, like, because we didn't have a ton of big cons in Toronto, you'd always go to a couple of them, you know?
Yeah, I thought Toronto was pretty con friendly. I always thought there was a lot of stuff going on in Toronto.
There is a lot of stuff going on. You had to pick and choose. Like, I used to go to the big Star Trek ones. Not that I'm the world's greatest Star Trek fan, but I like sci-fi, and I like sci-fi toys.
Oh,
and of course, I ended up, unlike you, I ended up a dealer at all these things.
Oh, wow.
Which was, like, I could go on and on about the insanity that I had to deal with, and the OCD and the people that only got out once a year to do those shows, you know.
Well, wait. Let's get there. Let's get to that, because I want to get to that. Let's go back a bit. I want to know. Do you remember the first bit of merchandise you ever bought at a convention?
Yeah, I would probably say it was one of these three things, which is one, that stuffed Cybermat.
Okay.
Or it was the Charlton Space 1999 magazine that I later discovered had Martin Lando's autograph in it. Or, it may have been that Not the 9 O'Clock News 45.
So that was you. So you got those all at that first convention.
Yeah, it was. I think it was called, and it's actually on YouTube. I found it. The fellow that I went with to it found some clips of us at it on YouTube from TV.
Oh, of you?
Well, we're barely in it. Like, you know, and I'm not going to.
Oh my God! You got it.
It's not a good look for Brian in 1984.
You please post that link when you put this episode up. Post the link.
Yeah. I'll try.
And anybody that can, anybody that can find
that
Brian.
Was called. Yeah.
If anybody can find Brian in the footage, you will get.
I will bury you.
You'll get a Marvel No Prize. How's that? That's what you'll get if you find Brian in the footage. You know what I got at that convention? And honestly, I just thought about it now. This is the first time I've thought about it and remembered what I got at that convention. Was the cassette of Doctor Who and the Pescatons.
You know what? I've never heard that up until recently. I finally bought it on vinyl. I was like,
did you get it on the record store day thing?
No, I found a vintage one for like £4, and I got. I became Discogs addicted for a while.
Okay.
And I couldn't, like, you know, the family and I like books on record, like, you know, G.I. Joe and Power Records. But I was like, how the hell did I avoid this all my life? Like, it's so in my wheelhouse.
I'm trying to think of how I even knew about it. I must have read about it in Doctor Who Monthly or something. Yeah. I don't know why I would have known what that was, but, you know, getting the cassette even was like, this is here, well, you know, and somebody must have been British to bring this here. How did it get here, you know?
How insane it was to find Doctor Who merch at that time. Like, you couldn't
No,
buy
it was
anything. Yeah.
That's why I walked into this thing in my brain. Like, it was right off the airplane. We checked into the same hotel. There's the convention, and I went for a while, and it blew my mind. I think I got the cassette. I think I got a bag of Jelly Babies, and I think I got the TARDIS key necklace, which is a knockoff. Well, yeah, like the light gray one, not the real heavy one, but the light gray one that kind of looked like an arrowhead. That one?
Oh, yeah. That's the one I had, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I have. I still have it. I eventually one day got the real one, the one that looks more like it did in the show. But I had this one, and that's where I got it, I think. And I might have gotten maybe a pin. Remember how the Doctor Who Fan Club of America was making those pins? You know, each Doctor and like a canine, and it was like an enamel pin. You know,
dude, I have a.
Remember those?
Oh yeah, I do remember those. Yeah,
I think I bought one of those.
I remember those from like the. I think that sounds like a Pledge Week thing.
They might have done it for Pledge Week or like mugs and things. You know, the thing is, I walked into this thing and I'm thinking back now to what a Palatoy, you know, talking Dalek in 1984. It must have been. I bet it was like $35 or $50 or something back then.
I got mine for $25 out of the back of Starlog.
Okay, so maybe it was even less. Maybe it was even less than that. I mean, whatever it was, to me, it was a king's ransom. And I was that kid who never like turned to the mom or dad and said, "Hey, can I get $25 to get the?" It just was. I had what money I had in my pocket because I used to, I waited tables all through high school and everything, and so I had cash, and I could only get what I could get. So those are the things that I got. But I wish I could go back, and if I had got that Palatoy Dalek, I think my head would have fallen off back then, because that was it, to find some piece of merchandise so that was the first thing you got. Okay, and then so how long before how convention-y were you before you started to be a dealer at conventions? Like, how old were you?
Well, yeah, like what happened for me was I realized that I could go into Toronto anytime I wanted at that point, because like, it was just a commuter train, like 20 minutes I was in Toronto.
Right.
And that's when I started. I started going to shows, and I started dealing probably when I was like 17 or 18. I think my dad drove me to one of the cons, like one of the next Doctor Who convention I went to, probably 2 years later. I was a dealer. I had a dealer table.
Wow.
And, I don't remember what I had. No, that couldn't happen. But he just like hovered around the room. That was the sad thing, was a lot of the shows I had to do, my parents ended up just like in the parking lot, and I thank them for it now, and I'm glad I'm bringing this up now, because it reminds me that like I should call them tomorrow and say, because they did the first Toronto Toy Show just sitting in the parking lot and for hours.
Wow.
Because they didn't want to go. They didn't want to go to the show, and I guess they went to dinner and they'd come back. But
that's
my
pretty
dad
cool.
did.
That's pretty cool.
Dad, he did about 2 or 3 of them, and then I felt really bad. And then I just started like, I can honestly remember taking a bus to one of them, and the people were hand bombing my boxes down to the back of the bus, and then they'd hand bomb them up. So it was pretty crazy, but. Yeah, my folks were really nice to me the first couple of shows, and then I just started learning how to take the bus to shows until I...
With all your stuff, though, how did you get all the... I mean, what...
Like I said,
what
people
kind of
hand-bombed them and stuff.
Well, I was gonna say, like, what kind of merch were you bringing? I mean, how much stuff did you have at 16 or 17 or whatever that you... What kind of stuff were you selling at a table?
Well, a lot of the stuff I had was my dad had connections at the Mego warehouse. He knew. He was like a wholesaler and a distributor himself. He knew the people at the Mego warehouse, so like Parkdale Novelty, and he took me in there when I was like 15 years old, and they had just piles of Mego Star Trek and superheroes and apes, and they said $2 each, and I bought a ton of that, and
wow.
I was hanging around, and I would go to closeout stores and buy like Battlestar Galactica jewelry and Planet of the Apes model kits and things like that, and I was dealing with people in the States through Starlog, and I just became but you would show up at these cons with toys that make me cry now, and you were getting like $5-10 a piece for these action figures. I mean, they were nothing. There really wasn't a lot of value to them. But like $5 and $10, when I was paying $2 was profit, and it was sort of a game I was playing. And but you want to hear the scariest and saddest story that I ever had?
Sure.
And I think about this all the time, and Star Wars collectors will be really upset. This was probably around 1986 or 87. So Star Wars stuff was not valuable at the time. It was all closeout at the time. So I was at a Toronto Star Trek show, and this was just when the Next Generation debuted. So what was that, 87?
It was 87, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
I watched
it was
the
in a high... Yeah,
I watched
me
the
too.
pilot. Yeah.
It was the summer of that year, and it was in a high school gymnasium, and this fellow that was like my toy collecting mentor, he got, we got a table together. He said, "I can drive you, kid, but then I got to go." He was, by the way, he was about 40 years old. He was a friend of mine. My parents had no trouble with me driving around with. He completely salt of the earth human being, just a lovely man. He just, his kids weren't into toys, and I was, and we hit it off. And he we got a table, and then he said, I got to go take my wife somewhere, so you're on your own. So I ended up having to take the bus at the end of the day, so it wasn't so bad. But while we were setting up at the show, this guy just showed up. And I remember this because there was no tables. It was all just school desks, like assembled as tables. This guy just comes in with these brown boxes and just goes, and it's just carded Star Wars figures.
Oh my God!
And they're $4 each, and it is like a mountain. It is a mountain of Star Wars figures. And I reach in and I pull out a Han Solo, and it was the Empire Strikes Back Han Solo, but it was on the Sears Canada card, which was a weird card. I don't know if you're familiar with it, where it was this kind of vacuform, like it was before the figure actually got released. So it's a black card. It says, Star Wars Han Solo on it, and then he's just shrunk wrapped the card. And I remember that card as a kid, even though I'm only like 17 I was only 16 actually at the time. I remembered getting that, and remembering that was like a special weird card, and I went to give the guy a 5, and he goes, that one's 10. That's rare. And I gave him 10, right? And I put it at the back, like I was sitting there all day. And, I did okay at the show. I probably made $100, but there was a guy who kept coming back.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, for the time especially. There was a guy kind of kept circling around my table. I want that Han Solo. And I'm like, that's for me. That's for me. And he's like, well, I'll give you $20 for it. I'm like, nah, I'm okay, By the end of the day, I think he had talked me up to $35. That's
wow.
Big profit.
That's a lot of money back then.
That's a lot of money, mister. And, I still don't really have, like, that Star Wars thing. And I was like, all right, I'll sell it to you. Don't ever Google what those are worth.
I can just imagine. Like, it's got to be... I can only... Would you have... You think you would have kept it all these years?
No. That's the only thing that doesn't make me go crazy. It's like there's no way during college and my drinking and my punk rock years, there's no way that would have survived. That would have gone, maybe I would have got $100 for it. That's the only reason that I can don't go crazy, because I think I saw one of them go for like $2,500. And it's like,
holy cat!
God,
in the early '90s, I had an original Han Palatoy, Star Wars.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I had a Hoth one, I think, on a tri-language card or whatever, and I sold them. And I had the 12-inch Kenner Han Solo in the box, which I sold as well. I've sold a lot of stuff over the years to keep my life going.
I've never really read Star Wars, but I sold some of my childhood Star Wars at shows. But
that
I
I've never done.
I remember selling my AT-AT at a toy show, a particularly dumpy toy show, like in 1989, and I remember it was a kid. He kept coming by and go, "Would you take $8?" and I remember it was a kid, and I went, "You know what? I'll take $5." And I never really lament that I lost my sold my childhood AT-AT.
I would have taken that kid for every penny he had.
Nah.
I'd say, what do you got? What do you got in your pockets, kid? Come on, you got any candy? Get a candy too.
I don't want. I don't even like candy now. But yeah, no, I wasn't too bad. But I did sell my childhood IG-88. I had a 12-inch IG-88.
Oh man! See, by the way, let me just clarify. None of these things. I didn't have carded stuff or boxed stuff as a kid.
I didn't have a boxed one as a kid, but
no, but I didn't. Yeah, you sold your loose IG-88.
Yeah, it was complete and everything.
Oh wow!
I probably sold it for $40. I don't want to think about it.
Which actually was, a pretty penny back then, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get screwed, but
right. I can't believe you had the AT-AT when you were a kid. You got the AT-AT.
I sold
Wow.
I sold my childhood black hole humanoid for $20 in high school. Because I am a player.
That is mental. That is completely mental. We never got the humanoid here.
Yeah.
And there you are giving it away like it's,
I sold it through mail order.
Change.
Yeah.
Speaking of mail order and all these
and
things.
Star. Yeah.
And I think that Monster Party, that show, the podcast that I was on, an episode or two ago that they did, they had Carrie O'Quinn on their new episode.
No kidding.
No kidding. And I haven't listened to it yet, but that made me think of the convention thing and Starlog. And Starlog was the thing that we've talked about, going to the back of the magazine and finding all the mail order stuff. But they also would have the conventions listed, and there was never, ever, ever anything for Minnesota. So it wasn't until the Doctor Who Fan Club of America, which at one point was massive. Like, they had a huge...
Yeah, they had a huge,
huge bunch of members, and they put out this newspaper-style newsletter that was, folded out, and it was, I don't know, 10 pages or something. And they started having a lot of not only mail order stuff that they made, or maybe some dealers in there or whatever. They started listing when these conventions started to happen, because Doctor Who started to get so big in 84, 85 that they figured it out. Let's do a tour. Let's do a Colin Baker and Patrick Troughton tour. I went to that show, which I think was I don't know when he died. It was a couple years before he died, or like a year before it was right after the Two Doctors aired, and it was Colin Baker and Patrick Troughton. I did not stay to get their autographs, but I walked. Yeah, but it was also what they did, and that might have been my second or third convention ever. So that was about 86, 85. Yeah. They also did this thing, which I'm sure you've heard of. They did this Doctor Who USA tour, and they've got a big truck and put a lot of props and Bessie in the truck and took it on the road around the country to all these conventions. And that was there, and there's a picture of me somewhere standing next to Bessie in 85, looking really sexy in like 85, 86, whatever it was, next to Bessie. And there were a few other things I think I took pictures of, but I don't know where those pictures are. But then every now and then a Doctor Who convention would come to town, and it started to get a little, or a science fiction convention, or a Star Trek thing. And you're right, like you just said, it was, sometimes you just wanted to go to a show. It didn't matter if it was the thing that you loved. Star Trek wasn't your bag necessarily. You wanted to go because you knew there were going to be people there that had other kinds of merchandise and other things.
Yeah, it was like a consortium, like you. The next con I remember going to, I think I went with my friend Doug, who I still am in touch with as well, was just a comic show on Queen Street in Toronto. And then, I ended up going to a lot of comic shows and nostalgia shows in Toronto. But this one had a guest, and there wasn't, the guests were few and far between, but the guest was Walter Koenig.
Oh.
And I would run into Walter Koenig many times in my life, by the way. In fact,
interesting.
I had a room next to him once, and he was not too pleased with me.
Oh wow! What? Dare I ask why?
I don't think he really liked my friends, and like there was like 5 of us in a room. This is my days, and
okay.
He kind of told us to shut up, which was
Walter
okay.
Walter Koenig told you guys to kind of shut up.
Yeah, there may have been
That's fantastic.
We were fine with it. But he looked a little stressed out at the time. I remember having empathy for him because he couldn't even get in his room.
Poor Chekhov.
Yeah, we were, like I said, I was all right with it. But he was, the reason I think I was all right with it was he was the first guest I ever saw get upset with somebody, and he was right to get upset. He had a plane to catch, and there was a whole bunch of people wanting a signature. And this is back in the day where just a guest signed.
Mm-hmm.
There was no cost to anything. And I think I bought a headshot.
That's right.
I still have the headshot. I think I bought it, but you could just come up and get something signed.
That's right.
And he had just written an issue of the DC Star Trek comic. and some dealer put like 50 copies in front of him.
Oh my God!
Koenig signed one, and he said, "Get lost."
Good for him.
I have all these people behind you.
Good for him. What is wrong with people?
I remember thinking, you know what? He's a decent dude. Like, you know, that guy was a dick for doing that, and yeah, it was a you know, it was a negative, but it was a positive experience. I remember really liking him after that. But at that show, you know, like you said, it was a comic show, but I ended up just buying toys. I got screwed in an auction. You know, I was just bidding people up in an auction. And I ended up having to buy Avengers #1 for $36 at the time, which probably wasn't a mint condition copy, but I ended up selling it to the second highest bidder because that was like all my money.
Wow! So you did well with this being a dealer. Usually, because that's a lot of money. To be
I wasn't a dealer at that show, but yeah, I was. I don't know if I always did well. But it was the fact that I was paying to get in. I got in early. I got a table. Yeah. And I was able to flip things I bought and buy things for myself. So there was a whole, like, a lot of people used to give you a real hard time because you were a dealer, like you were the enemy. But I loved this shit just as much as anyone else. And, you know, it was never about making profit for me. It was always about, what do I get? You know what I mean? Like, coming home with a wallet full of money meant I failed. You know, what was the thing for me was, you know, what did I pick up for my collection? You know, and often or not, especially this is something that I really hated, I would often have to give stuff away at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, you'd get those vouchers coming in. Yeah.
You got all the looky-loos the first day or two, and then on Sunday they know you got to take all the stuff back, and everything starts to go down.
Never view a dealer like, I mean, yeah. The problem is that people who deal this stuff, some of them just are not. They don't have the greatest people skills. You know, they're a bit misanthropic.
No, they don't, and it's kind of, you know, that's a thing that sort of. I don't know if I can talk about this because it's going to make me sound like a jerk, and I don't want it to. Maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll hold off on the rant I was going to go on. But well, yeah, no, there's just, you know, that I think this is when I started to go to these conventions. I sort of started to, how do I put this? I loved this stuff. I loved Doctor Who. You know, I loved Star Wars and, you know, The Prisoner and all kinds of stuff. And then,
me too.
I started to see a certain type of person at conventions that that it was kind of, you know, it started the whole thing of, I don't know where I belong, because, you know, the Beatles are my religion, but, you know, if I went to like a Beatle con, you're going to find the same kind of people, and I think you know kind of what I'm talking about. Not your average Joe, but just some, you know, and the dealers and whatever. And it all just kind of started to, I don't know why, it just started to kind of turn me off in a way. It shouldn't have. And I think I started to move away from the whole thing. As I've told you before, like high school kind of took off, and then, you know, girls or whatever at the time, you know, dating and stuff like that. And so all that stuff started to kind of take a back seat, even going to such things. I remember going to one. There were a couple of guys I went to school with who became fans of Doctor Who. I started to get them, you know, into it, and then they started watching the old shows and when they would air and stuff. And all three of us went to a convention once, but it was the kind of thing that really had to be kept under the radar. Like, it sort of had to be, listen, we're going to this thing, but don't tell. You know, I went to an all-male military academy for high school. You know, so you don't want, you know, there was a stigma about being into that show or watching that show, and I think that was the last thing I went to, probably until the early '90s, and that thing was what was then the, I want to say, 25th anniversary of Star Trek.
Yeah,
was that when Star Trek 6 came out?
Was that 91? Around that?
It was 91. It was 91, and that
around
that
when
would be the
Roddenberry
next.
died, right?
Yes. That was when the movie came out, and that was the next convention that I went to, and it was the movie premiered the Friday night, and then Saturday was the convention, and there was Shatner and Nimoy together at this convention. So I got a ticket for that, and it was huge. It was much bigger than the stuff that, the VFW halls that some of the Doctor Who stuff was in, and it was really big, and it was mind blowing to see Shatner and Nimoy on stage together. It kind of knocked me out. Like, wow, there they are. Because you're living in Minnesota. I'm never going to meet these people or be around them or anything. And they came through there was a big prop portal on stage. The Harlan Ellison episode where they jump through the portal and they go. What's it called? All Our Yesterdays or
City
whatever.
City on the Edge of Forever? Yeah.
City on the Edge of Forever, yeah.
I have a great Harlan Ellison story, too, I want to tell you.
Harlan Ellison's never been happy about that episode. It went completely wrong the way he wanted it.
I know.
And then they showed that clip of them jumping through, and then the lights came up, and they walked through the portal. And then they did like
reminds me of that Simpsons where they do the bonanza thing, and everybody's dead. Sorry.
Well, it was
like
kind
you
of,
can see how that could go horribly wrong, right?
Right. The place went nuts. Absolutely nuts when they came through there, and they just bantered back and forth, and it was the most amazing thing. And I don't know if I've ever seen it before, but what they did was people were shouting up things, and people were "I love you," and sort of that how they're up on stage and asking like a rhetorical question. And I say this because I went and saw Mickey Dolenz and Mike Nesmith and a couple weeks ago, and I got like the sound check thing and did the whole thing.
I have another friend who just did that this weekend. I just saw that on Facebook.
Yeah. I love Nesmith. He's the thing that works about the Monkees for me, and his songwriting and so just to see him do these songs again. But suddenly I'm standing around with people, and I'm looking around going, this could literally be a Doctor Who convention from 1985. Because they're up on stage kind of bantering, asking rhetorical questions, and people in the audience are yelling up answers. No, it's from the album with the thing, and it just makes me absolutely cringe inside. Nesmith told a story about Death Cab for Cutie, because Ben Gibbard wrote Me and Magdalena on the new record. He's Death Cab for Cutie, which, is a song by the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. That's where the band got their name. They took the title of the song from the Bonzos. Neil Innes was in the Bonzos. He ended up working with Monty Python and, stuff like that. Maybe the Ruddles, that was Neil Innes. Anyway, he's up there telling the story about, he said, I asked Ben one time, like, Ben, Death Cab. Like, where'd you get that name? Like, why'd you, Death Cab? It sounds so, I asked him, and I never got a good answer, and that was his bit. But as he says it, there's two people in front of me yelling up the story that I just told about the Bonzos. No, it came from the Bonzos. And it just, so I'm watching Shatner and Nimoy, and they're sort of asking rhetorical questions, and people are screaming. And they did this thing where they just completely and utterly ignored the audience and just did their back and forth thing as if the audience wasn't there. It was extraordinary. It was absolutely extraordinary. They must have had a pep talk before they went out and said, "Look, people are going to be screaming shit, and let's just do our thing and then get the hell out of here as quick as we can." And but it was pretty cool.
There's two things from that. One, I think I was standing in a line for probably one of the better toy and celebrity expos I've ever been in my life in New Jersey. I was like in Hackensack or somewhere, and it was this the late '90s, like '97 or '98. I was in this line, and the guests were all Batman people and like somebody from Kiss. Let's just put it that way. And it was like it was like Adam West and Burt Ward and Frank Gorshin and Yvonne Craig.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pretty, and then like two guys from Kiss. Like nobody, not Peter Criss or but the guys who replaced. Like Eric Carr, I think.
The guys who replaced Ace Frehley and Peter Criss.
Those guys. So there was a guy in line in front of me, and we were waiting. It was raining outside, so they put us inside the hall, and they did the whole twisty line thing. And there was two guys in front of me that were Kiss fans, and the half an hour I spent standing there staring at those two, listening to their banter, I just realized that you could just take out the word Gene Simmons and put in Spock, or you could take out Spock and put. It's all the same. We are all the same.
I don't understand because. Yeah. I mean, nobody admires passion more than I do. Like, if you're into something, that's why we talk about this stuff, and you're supposed to mean it, But, I mean, there's people at this Nesmith and Dolan thing that are from Australia that are going to every show, and they know, and they're having these conversations like, no, he doesn't drink coffee because he doesn't like caffeine. Like, this is the kind of, they're all trying to one-up each other with how much more they know about the monkeys.
Call that otaku. That whole they got to know everything about everything, and I couldn't get over what this guy was talking about. I never passed any sort of judgment on them because I was just standing there with my mouth open. Like, I thought Kiss fans were cool, but it doesn't matter what it is.
It doesn't. It really doesn't matter. You're right. You can put
stats and figures.
In high school and, right after high school, I used to go to this record show.
Yeah.
This is, I hate to break it to the audience, but this is pre-digital. So if I wanted to get B-sides of a band that I liked for, older stuff or whatever.
I don't think we're talking to Generation
Y
out here.
There's a thing called record. Yeah. Just so you know. This is a thing.
I think
we're
little
good.
Round I don't
thing.
think there needs to be a glossary
I don't know.
Of
I think we have a big teen audience. I don't know if you know that. I think we've got a large. We're all the J-pop, K-pop kids are listening. But anyway,
I don't think this is David Lynch's Dune, and we need to hand out the speak of the film.
Speaking of Dune, I'm glad you brought that up because I'd like to talk about Dune for 45 minutes or so if we could before we get back to the convention thing. We will do a Dune episode before I die. I swear to God, we're going to do it, and it's going to be the best episode we've ever done.
I will be so drunk.
Anyway, so I used to go to this record show, and it was like the second or third Sunday of the month, every month at this Holiday Inn in St. Paul. And it was the same thing. It was the same people that got there early before it opened, and they were fanatical. There's one thing to be a fan, it's another thing to be fanatical and just. But then I feel like, oh God, stop! You're being too critical.
Yeah.
If this is what they want or they have in their lives, I'm not. I don't mean to sound like. I'm, Nick Charles, like with his martini in his hand and walking around.
You're in line with them too, so it's hard to sit there and judge because it's like, we're all standing in the rain,
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, there was a woman there that was in the front row that apparently had gone to another show because this was the second or third show that they did, and they're going to do more, and God knows she'll probably be at every one of them. And the lighting guy walked by, and she was like, the lighting, this is all, it's like, it's too bright. It's like, I don't know why you're doing this with the lighting. It should be this. And the lighting guy looked around like, are you talking to me? What are you talking about? And she made some complaints about it. This was during the sound check. And he looked at her and said, ma'am, you're kind of overthinking it. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Show's going to be fine. And he walked away, and she of course turns to her friend and says something, and it just took me out of it completely. Like, I'm trying to enjoy this seeing a sound check with Mike Nesmith, and anyway, I'm ranting, but I just mean there's
case in point. I wanted to bring up. This is way off, but I went to see two indie bands that I really admire, and they're young. They're really young, and the opening band. It just so happened serendipitously, two bands I like are touring together, and the opening band are very young. They're teenagers, and so much so that they had to exit the bar and not do signings or anything because they weren't actually legally allowed to be in the bar. That
was the first time I saw Arctic Monkeys. They wanted to go to the bar and they couldn't get in the bar because they weren't old enough.
So
sorry, go ahead.
The lead singer of the band is just trying to say how much that the album by the band they're opening for inspired them. Like they're just trying to get that out.
To get that out, yes.
The standing next to me, the guy who somehow surprisingly was even older than me, is just going, "We came here for you," and it's just like, let her finish her sentence.
There are two things. I go to a lot of shows, and because a lot of smaller venues here and stuff. But I'm getting to a point where there are two things that make me insane at a show. I don't care if it's the Troubadour or if it's at the Greek. How big the venue is. Number one and first, and more than anything, is the holding up your phone and watching it through the phone. Filming it. It's okay to snap a couple pictures, but to film the thing and have your damn phone up, and you just go, dude, there's a show going on here. Put your phone up, because that's distracting to me to have the. Well, the other thing is people yelling up song titles. So they finish a tune, and then it's like, play the one with the bubba dubba, or they just yell out the title.
Do what I say.
And I saw Paul Weller once. He's one of my heroes. I saw him once at the House of Blues doing an acoustic show, and guys were doing that. And he stopped and said, "You know what? This isn't karaoke. This isn't request night. I'm doing my thing." So And he kind of told him up, but it just makes me cringe. It's the same kind of thing that just I don't know what it is, but I'm not saying all. That's not all conventions or all people.
No. But that's a small.
Yes,
a small, outspoken,
small but foul-smelling bunch of people.
You brought up a really good point to me, and I wanted to bring it up. Was like you, girls and all that stuff took over, and it wasn't until I think my senior year that I was dating somebody who had a mild interest in science fiction. She liked certain books and I actually took her to two cons.
Ooh,
we were dating. I took her to the annual Star Trek con, and I did because I had a friend at the time who was a massive toy collector. You remember the guy that used to have the ads in the back of Starlog, Amazing Third Planet, that had all the Star Trek Migos?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
We were friends, and he was a lot older than me, but he just we got on. And I was going to go to that Star Trek con, so he gave me two figures to get signed. He gave me a carded Romulan and a General Urko, and so my girlfriend came along, and she was kind of into Doctor Who and Star Trek, mildly, and she really enjoyed it. Like she couldn't get over the world that was, and
right.
So, and Mark Leonard was not happy. I don't think I've probably told that story on this before, but that he didn't.
Oh, he wouldn't. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. And then,
but did he sign it though? I forget.
Yeah, he signed it. I actually still have the Urko because I bought it back from. It was from my friend's son, and he sold it.
Okay.
I think, when he was 20 or something, and I bought it from him because, even though it's to him, it's like, well, I was there when he signed it, so I'm glad I own it. And then I think about 6 months later, there was a comic convention in Toronto, which was rare, and I was into comics at the time. Mm-hmm. So the guest was Harlan Ellison. And,
I know where this is going to go.
I can't quite remember the exchange we had, but I'm a tall guy. I was probably 6'4" at the time, and not soaking with a brick, probably 125 at the time. But
you could have taken him.
I could have taken him, and she was a very pretty girl, and he got. I don't think he has what a filter, right? And
no, he doesn't have a filter.
He said something. It wasn't massively untoward, and I'm not bothered by it, but it was something like, it's us little fuckers that you got to look out for, girly, or something like that. Just typical Harlan Ellison.
Oh, and, creepy.
Yeah.
Creepy. That's creepy. What's the worst encounter? What's the worst encounter that you've had? Yeah, anybody from today backwards, the first time you went to a convention or something, what's the, and I got another question after that, but what's the worst encounter you've had It was celeb.
Oh wow! I got to tell you that I really liked going to chiller theater back in the early '90s, and when I met my wife, and we were just starting to date, she loved Star Wars as a kid and that sort of thing, and yeah, David Prowse was a real dink to her, and that was the first celebrity she ever met. So that was not great. Like, he was like, we went up to get a photo signed, and he kind of did that thing with his finger, like, I am talking to someone, and it just ignored us.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, like, wow. And he never acknowledged us, or it was, because somebody was talking to him about Hammer Films or something, and it's like, well, you're at the show, you're sitting at a table, like, I didn't know how to take that, and at the time I didn't really have much cadence towards it, but I remember thinking, like, wow, we don't matter to David Prowse at all, like, I've seen other things now where I think he has good days and bad, and generally I think the guy gets a bad rap, but yeah, I remember being really not happy about that exchange. What about you?
I'm trying to think. I think it has to be like a Comic-Con thing. I think one of them was my mother is a big fan of Hellboy. I've given her some of the books. She loves the movies. And this is really nothing, but Mike Mignola suddenly was doing a signing. I was kind of walking past, I was going, you're kind of doing schmoozing and walking around and stuff, and I was just walking past the table, and all of a sudden I saw Mike, and I said, oh, when is he coming, what is he going to sign? I said, well, whatever you want, whatever you want to sign. And so they had this flyer that was for some new thing he was doing, some, I don't know, Witch of the Dead or something that wasn't Hellboy. But I wanted to get it, something signed just for my mom. And when I was like, when I was the third person in line, or I was waiting when he comes out, and just miserable. I mean, doesn't want to be there. First guy hands him something, doesn't even look at him, signs a thing, and I come up to him and I go, hey, how you doing? He just looks at me, doesn't say anything, and I have the thing in my hand, and I put it down in front of him, having noticed that he didn't say a word to the other two people. And I put it down, and he's like, do you want me to sign it or what? I said, yeah, if you don't mind. Like, up yours, pal. Like, yeah, what are you doing here? You're sitting here signing things for people that they're in line. I put this in front of you. Do I have to tell you, how to grab the pen and sign the thing? But it was just, when I took it, and I was just like, and I was like, okay, I'm sorry that you're miserable and you hate this stuff, but these people are paying your bills, pretty much.
The most awkward one I can remember is that when I ever used to go downtown Toronto to the Silver Snail, I always ended up on signing day. Like, they'd have an artist. And even though I didn't collect comics or really understand that world, I would go and get whatever was they were doing at the time. I would get signed because it's like, that seems like a good idea. And
right.
One of the times was Bill Sienkiewicz was there, and I had the
nice.
I had the Dune adaptation in a paperback.
Wait, sorry, the what adaptation?
Yeah, somebody gave me the Dune comic.
That's the second time you've mentioned Dune in the show. Something tells me subconsciously you really want to do a Dune episode. I don't know why we're not doing this. You seem to love it. You had the comic. You had the glossary that was handed out. You mentioned it twice. I think let's see what people think. Anybody out there listening, if you want us to do a Dune episode, just imagine how good that would be. Just imagine if you can. Let's see if we can convince Brian to do a Dune episode.
Such a big fan. But
or
the second
just Children
one was
of Dune. Sorry, go ahead.
The artist of, I think it was called Fantastic Four versus X-Men, and the artist of that, whose name escapes me, was doing a signing. So I thought, well, I'm going to buy a copy of this and get it signed. And it was a long line, but he was, he was factory doing this. Well, he stops with me and goes, hey, Brian, what's your favorite character I've done?
Ooh. Wow, that's like a quiz before you get anything signed.
And I'm like, yeah, and I don't remember what I said.
No, I'm not sure.
And then my voice had cracked by that point, but close. But he said, what did you think of the series? And he mentioned a series I did before that. Like, he was looking for friendly feedback, and he picked the wrong guy in line. Like, I was just like, that was pretty good. I really liked it. Please don't ask me a follow-up question.
I don't know. Please don't ask me anything else.
God.
Just sign my book.
Oh, my God. I just remember you could have bought me for a nickel. And, you know, I still
That's
wanted to
dangerous.
shop in the store after, but I was careful to avoid where he was sitting so that we never made any sort of eye contact after that. Because,
And I'll bet you
like,
I'll bet he's never forgotten it. I bet it has stayed with him
I'm sure
all
he's
these years
just sitting there going that.
and haunted him that you didn't know what
He knew
he...
nothing of me.
You know, it's funny because that all sort of stopped. Then I moved to Los Angeles. And there is I think it's still going on. I think it's been going on for about 20-some years.
Oh, that's the
There
Beverly Garland Hotel, right?
No, it used to be at the
okay.
Shrine. If it's the one it's the one
it.
it's just basically called Science Fiction and Comic Convention. They do it every month. And for a while there, this guy was getting people like, you know, Terry Gilliam, you know, for Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Like, how is he getting these people to come to this thing? And it's
Short
at the
drive.
Shrine. And the Shrine is kind of, but it started out kind of cool. You could go every month and loads of people would go and there was great merchandise and, you know, I didn't really care about whoever was going to be there. But the ones who were always there were two people that were always at this thing. And it just would break my... I bet you know...
Dr. Zayas? Booth Coleman?
I just said it would
Because I
break
think
my
you and I
heart.
have talked about...
Oh my God, it would break my heart every time
I would
because
be all over Booth Coleman.
you'd literally overhear people looking at the table going, "God, it's Dr. Zayas." And then someone else would go, no, it's from the TV show. And they'd stop and go, oh,
gross.
okay, and walk the other way when they realized who he was. He was always there, always reading something. And the other one was Herbert Jefferson Jr., who played Boomer.
Oh, Boomer. Yeah.
Boomer. And Boomer was angry. God, he's an angry man. Because he'd always have a paperback that he was reading, and you kind of, people would like sort of, when they asked him to sign something, it was like an interruption, and he had to put the book down and do whatever.
Well,
but they were there every single month, and I don't know what they got out of it.
Well, they got a day off. But
I guess
you say that, but in Canada, that there was I think the guy that would be John Colicos.
Really?
Baltar.
Is he alive?
Because he was Canadian. Well, he was. And,
he was alive.
I got into this really bad situation in the early '90s where I was doing these. I was a touring dealer, and it really made God, it was just terrible summer, but. I did all these comic shows, and I think I actually bailed on the tour. But it was, I remember there was John Colicos was one of the guests. William Mesner Loebs, who was a sweet human being, in the Flash.
Who's that?
He's a DC guy. I think he was working on the Flash at the time. He's been in and out of some troubles, but what a lovely man he was. And Colicos himself is a lovely man. I really enjoyed it. I had to drive him around a couple of times, but not a great urinal partner.
You drove around John Colicos?
Yeah. A guy could draw too.
Wow.
But
That's pretty cool.
We did this touring show, and God. Toronto was great, and as soon as we left Toronto, we ended up in towns like London. And I remember the London one was done in a building next to a racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
And there was if you've ever been around a stable, I grew up around stables. There's a lot of dust.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely nobody frickin' showed up at the show. Nobody showed up at the show. And then we did a second weekend, and thank God the second weekend, because the London show nearly killed me. And then the second weekend was near my parents' house, so I could sleep at my parents' house, where I lived, by the way. I'm not putting on air. And
hello, lady.
Less than one person showed up.
Oh,
the
wow.
local mentally challenged guy came in looking for Care Bears comics, and it was great.
Wow.
So I bailed on the show before I went to Quebec because I couldn't handle it. But I got to know John Colicos pretty well. There was a few people like that. There was a couple of like local Toronto celebrities that would do that stuff. But the one that kills me is that I'm close enough to the U.S. border to have had many not run-ins, but just walk-bys of Virgil, wrestling superstar. I don't know if you're
No,
familiar
I don't
with
think
this.
I know.
I'm
No.
not a big wrestling guy.
Okay.
But Virgil was the guy that, and somebody else can tell this better than me. But like, if there was a guy like a name wrestler, Virgil would be like his bodyguard, or,
Okay.
and he would just stand there with the guy,
Like his chaperone or something.
like his chaperone, or and so I don't think that life's been there. There's a whole like series of memes called Lonely Virgil, but like if I go to like a show in Detroit, or I go to a show in like Buffalo or Toronto even, he's usually got a table and he's just sitting there and he's got a sign that says Virgil, wrestling superstar, and there's never anyone at his table.
Oh,
like
God, that's
he's
freaking
just sitting
heartbreaking.
there. It is, but apparently he's not the nicest of characters. I like, again, I'm not into the wrestling world, but it was just, it would be a running gag with like, hey, Virgil, wrestling superstar, But the most saddest thing I've ever seen in my life, and was at Motor City Comic Con in Detroit. I got in on Saturday morning, kind of early, and you get a lot of people who are a bit niche, not name star. Like, I know who they are.
Yeah.
But instead of going through the dealer's room, I decided to walk to the guest, because I think there was a certain guest. I think it was Jim Kelly. I wanted to meet Jim Kelly, and I wanted to see when he was coming. So I went right to the guest, and the guests are all kind of just waking up at 10 in the morning when the show opens. Tom Savini's still setting up, but I walked by, and I don't know if you know this actor, Robert Zadar. He character actor.
Oh,
great big
Maniac
jawline.
Cop.
Yeah, Maniac Cop. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I knew that guy.
He was on the phone with somebody, and it was clearly a family member or a loved one.
Oh, God.
And he looked hungover, which, I think, I forgive him. I was hungover. But he was apologizing to them profusely, and his face just looked so remorseful. And I just looked at this guy like he doesn't even know where he is. Like he's...
Oh, God.
He doesn't know where he is. He's just here to sign autographs, and he's clearly having a family crisis. And, some dumb Canadian idiot is watching him. Like me, just walking by, like, what's going on with Maniac Cop? And I felt so bad for him.
What's interesting? I'll tell you two things, because you mentioned Hangover. Remind me of that, because I'll tell you something. Robert Zadar, in the late 90s, used to work the door at this bar on Sunset. And it wasn't,
no kidding.
It wasn't like a club, like I never went to, Night at the Roxbury, type stuff. But it was a cool bar, and I forget the name of it. But like, the first time I went there and I saw him at the door, I knew who he was immediately. And, it's one of those weird things where you would acknowledge it, because there's almost an embarrassment that, I'm doing this, that's what I was, and I'm doing this or whatever, but he was one of the nicest guys. Like, he knew me every time I came in. I would go out front when I smoked back then and have a cigarette and hang out and talk with him. And he asked me about my life and when did I move out here and everything else. And I knew who he was. And then finally, the second or third time, I think I said, "Hey, man, I really admire your work. You're great." And he said, "Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that." But it was like he was working the door at this joint on Sunset. It was.
I couldn't get away from him fast enough when I noticed that I was witnessing his real, like, this was him having a very personal phone call.
Real life demise.
So bad. Like, oh God, you poor man,
Yeah.
But that was probably the saddest, other than Robert Bloch. Because
Robert Bloch? Oh, isn't he? He's famous.
Yeah, yeah.
He's the writer.
This is the worst convention I ever went to in my life, and I want to hear yours. But 1992, I bought a table with friends. In fact, one of my friends is an Academy Award winner. We all went in on a table, and I was at the time I was dealing toys and bootleg videos, like a lot of people did in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called RhinoCon, and it was supposed to be this science fiction horror / convention. It was held in a town called London, Ontario. And prior to the show, I'd had a falling out with another dealer who I had discovered had been stealing from me and another guy. And
oh my God!
Yeah, it was bad. I still have never spoken to this guy again. But what was worse was he was kind of like he's kind of a vindictive soul. So when I showed up at this show, I walked up to a dealer and said, "Hey, man, I do the same stuff." And he goes, "Yeah, I hear you're a thief." So he had walked around to every other dealer in this tiny room and basically said I was him. You know what I mean? Like that.
Wow.
He was salting the earth, and I realized he was kind of a nut that way. So I remember I went to the the showrunner and said, "Look, this guy's badmouthed me to your entire everyone in the room, and what are you going to do about that?" And it was this very empathetic woman who also just seemed to like put her hands all over me. Like her hands were in my... Yeah, she was really into me, I think. And she's like, "We're going to get to the bottom of this," with her hands in my lap and, just grabbing my arms. And I was like, okay, I get it that you find me attractive. But so I didn't pursue that any further. And then 3 friggin' people showed to this show all weekend.
Oh my God.
And one of them was this guy who was about 4 feet tall. One of the first cosplayers I ran into. About 4 feet tall, spoke like this. He was dressed as a Klingon, and he was giving demonstrations of how to fight like a Klingon in the main
Good
lobby.
God, you're breaking my heart. You're absolutely breaking my heart.
Actually, that was the best part of the show. The first part, like, first of all, I realized, like, I'm a student. I thought I could make a lot of money going back to school. I'm going to lose like $300 doing this show. What am I going to do? They walk by and go, "Hey, would you like to buy a beer bottle?" And I go, "What's a beer bottle?" And they go, "Well, we made homebrew, and if you buy this $10 bottle, we'll fill it all weekend. Unlimited."
I'm in.
I spent that entire weekend out of my mind, drunk. Because I was like, well,
fantastic.
And I'm 21 years old, dude. Like, I didn't
That's
pile it
fantastic.
on. I do not remember certain parts of that weekend, and I think that's the only
Thousands
way I
of
got
people
through.
probably showed up, and you have no idea that it was a huge convention.
One of the guests was a Canadian artist by the name of Nash the Slash, and Nash the Slash was this guy who dressed like the Invisible Man, and he would play. And he was kind of like he had his 15 minutes, but when he played My Local Town, he opened for somebody, not my local town, the town next door, which is a bit more blue collar. They pelted him with golf balls till he got off the stage. And
what?
Because they wanted whoever the opening act was, and I can't remember, or who he was opening for.
Wait, where did they get the golf balls?
They threw golf balls at him. I don't know where. I just remember that
Where the
story.
hell who brings golf balls to us?
Who
the hell is that?
cabbages to a speech?
What the hell is that?
I don't
That's
know.
mental.
But what I really remember is my friend telling me, like, we met him. We had like dinner with him because it was so boring there. We met his manager or something like that. And he said, "Sure, you can."
He's all bruised and bloody from the golf ball.
Well, no, that was at like 5 years previous, like 6 years previous. This happened in his heyday. He was there to. I think he was playing Nosferatu, and he had done his own score for it. Like it was kind of a cool thing he was doing, actually. And my friend the next day goes, "Why'd you bring up the golf ball story?" And I go, "Oh, did I?" And he goes, "Yeah, you did." I was like,
well, it's funny you say the thing about the Klingon because
drunk.
I did a show once. I did a show once when I was basically doing the show. There was a host. And I needed money at the time. I'd write all the scripts, produce all the bits. You know, she was doing, stand-ups. We'd take her out to locations. It was me, a camera, sound, her, and we'd do these interstitials between whatever the show was talking about. She'd be like, "I'm here at Disneyland and I'm doing this," and you'd get sort of a lay of the land. Anyway, we did one at a convention, a sci-fi convention, whatever it was, and got into this show. And there was a guy, two guys doing lightsaber training.
Oh yeah.
With people, and we filmed it. And this is like, again, I don't mean to belittle this in any way. If this is your bag, that's fine. But these guys were full on, and the first question they asked the audience was, "Okay, all right, what's different about a lightsaber to any other lightsabers? I mean, any other weapons? What's different about a lightsaber to other weapons?" And I turned to her and I said, "It's fictional. It's a made up because it's a made up weapon, But somebody like, it's got crystals in it or something, And then they started this training exercise, which was kind of mind blowing. But we used to go to this shrine convention, every now and then. Me and my couple of buddies would go out drinking the night before, and just to kind of have a Sunday and goof on stuff, we'd go to the shrine thing. And as the time kind of wore on, more and more pornography.
Oh.
There were more tables that you'd kind of go around the back of the table, and there was the. I remember one time, I'm not kidding, there was a sign that said, on a white card, black Sharpie, just said, "Smut, half off."
Oh, awesome.
That is one of the greatest signs I've ever seen in my life. It just said, "Smut, half off." And I remember one day, and one of my buddies was like, "I don't get it." We're in the car afterwards. He's like, "I don't get it. Where's all the porn? I mean, I don't understand why it's a sci-fi. Why is there so much porn here?" And I'm driving, and I'm like, "Do the math. Think about it. Think about who's coming to this thing. These are people that, they a lot of them need porn.
It's a one-stop shop.
That's an outlet as well." It's one-stop shopping. And they figured it out by bringing all their girly magazines to someone's put. Smut Half Off, I think, is a great name for an album for our band. We get our band together.
It's just so like blasé, like it's
Just thinking about him making the sign, thinking, how do I encapsulate exactly what the sale is, and specifically what we're selling. That's not going to sound. Oh, smut. Smut's a good word. That'll get him in. Yeah, smut, half off. And then, of course, about, 12, 13, 14 years ago, I started going to San Diego Comic-Con, which, of course, is this thing that is brain melting if you've never been there. It's just back when I first went, you could just get in. Like, I drove down one Saturday morning with a buddy. Again, we had been drinking the night before, and said, why don't we just go? Let's just go. We drove down, found parking in the area, and just walked right up, and I made up a story about meeting a film crew, and they're not here yet. They didn't get, my passes aren't here. Are you kidding me? What are you filming? I said, well, we're doing the show, and made a bunch of shit up, and then she's like, okay, you go find them. And she gave us 2 passes, and we just walked into Comic-Con, and it was mellow. Now it's become this thing that, I mean, it's hard to even explain how ridiculous this thing is, and it is very claustrophobic after a while.
By the way, with my first year, I hustled my way in too. I did a really sneaky move. Yeah.
Oh, you did? What did you do?
Yeah. Well, we only had passes for one day, and then the second day, I ran into Robin Adams, of course, from Mega Museum, my friend. And,
hi, Robin.
And she had gotten us press passes, but that left my wife, who could not get in. And it was so hot in San Diego, we were like, well, I guess we'll just go back to the con. What else are we going to do? And she said, well, one problem, I don't have a pass. So what I did was I said, stand here and wait here. And I walked backwards through the con to the admission tickets, bought her a ticket, and then walked out and handed her a badge.
Slick.
Like, rather than
Nice.
her waiting in the 500-person line, I went
Look
back,
at us.
you know, yeah. And
Couple
so
of-
it
couple of
wasn't
smooth
that
operators.
sneaky, but I just used my press pass to get ahead of the
Yeah.
line. Like, you know, I'm sorry, people who happen
Yeah,
to be
no,
able
it's-
to, yeah.
I'm sorry.
But-
Adopt, and improve. That's the
But
motto
now
of the
there
round
is
table.
no such thing as ticket sales at the front door, is there?
N-
Like, it's
no,
done
no,
and-
it's-
yeah.
And now you go. They were doing. It was so bad a couple of years ago. I mean, it was insane, and nobody could feel like, what is going on? Well, people were making counterfeit passes,
Yeah.
and that was getting them in. And the thing was overflowing. Like the fire marshal finally went, whoa, 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 you've got too many people in here. And they figured out that people were making fake badges. So now you got to have your badge on, and you got to, ding it with the security thing going every time you leave and every time you go in. You got to hit the thing, because so they can sort of keep track of you. So you can't really do that. It's really crazy. But it's a whole other thing where you just it's just like we're talking about. You kind of walk right there as somebody that was in a TV show for one season. With
Yeah.
trying to do their thing and sell their autographs, and then all of a sudden there's Leonard Nimoy. I was walking around once, and this a couple of years before he died. It might have been when Star Trek the movie came out, or the second movie, Chris Pine, the second one. I don't know, but suddenly I go up to this Roddenberry table or Star Trek table or something, and there he is, and they're just setting up. And I just stopped in my tracks, like, that's Leonard Nimoy. Oh my God! Because I met him once before, many, many years ago, at a production office. But I got in line immediately. There was like two people ahead of me, and picked up, got a photo of him. The photo, I think it was like $60 or $75 or something to get the autograph. But no, I'm not a huge autograph guy, but I've got a nice book filled with. I got a lot of books that are signed. And I've got a book, a binder filled with, autographs, people that I've met or whatever. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But anyway, I met him and had him sign it and took a picture of him. I said, would you mind if I got a picture? He's like, oh, of course not, And I took a picture and that was it. But there's a lot of that, around. And it's just a whole other thing. It's just kind of, it's hard. It's just insane. It's just
I'm
an
going to ask you a
insane
question if you
4 or
remember
5 days.
when it went from just getting a signature to $50 experience. Like,
I don't know. I do not know.
In the
I don't
early
know when that
90s, I
happened.
remember I got in a line and I got Ray Harryhausen's autograph. Like, that was just, it wasn't the most wonderful of experiences. I said thank you and walked away, but it was like it was just this like signing experience, like 1 hour he's signing, and
Yeah.
And I remember,
No, it's
I remember James Doohan doing that, like in the early '90s. Come on, and he would just be signing, And when did that,
I don't know when it changed.
Yeah,
I don't know. When you go to what's it called? Horror Son of Monsterpalooza, like Monsterpalooza or something. I was there. I went to one of them with a friend once, and there was Ken 4E from Day of the Dead or whatever.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead. And he's doing his thing. He's got his photos and stuff. And my friend was like, "Can I get a picture? I wonder if I get it." And he's like, "Okay." And he came around and got a picture. And he came up to me and I said, the guy's trying to sell a photo. Give him something.
Yeah.
If you're not going to buy a picture, you got to give him something, because I don't know. I don't know how they attract people to such things. I don't know if they pay them to be there. Just say, look, you're on the ticket, and you can just bring a table and make what you can. It's all goes into your pocket. I mean, and some of them can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
In a 3 or 4 day thing, they can do really, really well. Just getting cash. But then there's a lot of Dr. Zayas's, in the room too. And I think at the
I
conventions
honestly
and stuff.
remember being at Chiller Theater probably in the late 90s, and someone was trying to take a photo of June Lockhart, and she blocked it. And she said, if you'd like a photo with me, it's $20. And I remember going,
good for you, June.
That's new. Like that's a problem.
Yeah, I
now?
don't know.
And you know, I
don't know.
always like I just don't remember when it changed. Like I can remember walking around a show, and my friend said, "Did you get Bruce Campbell's autograph?" And I said, "Where the hell's Bruce Campbell?" He's like, "Oh, he's just sitting there. I'll sign anything." And it was like that went from guys selling headshots and stuff. I used to, you know, a lot of the people I used to buy a photo from because you wanted to help them out. You know what I mean? Like they
Right.
came to the show,
Right.
and you know what's Robert Clark doing these days except signing pictures of the hideous Sun Demon or Robert Quarry or
Yeah.
one of the like these guys.
Yeah, now it's become an unspoken thing. You just
Yeah.
if they're there, you gotta put up some money
Yeah,
if you want an autograph or a photo or something. And I don't know when that happened. I was thinking of that before, and like somebody decided they could monetize it, and yeah,
So-
that's the rule. You got to pay for it. Like, I mean, again, I kind of get it because I don't know what June Lockhart is getting for residuals at
Yeah,
all, or what she
yeah.
gets with these deals. These were horrible deals at the time. So
Yeah,
you know,
I don't have a big problem with it. I
know. No, I
Yeah.
know. I get it.
The thing I don't get, and again, a lot of people do, is the idea of like, you know, I'm going to pay $200 for the Leonard Nimoy experience that'll include a photo that he doesn't sign in front of me, and I know this isn't a thing you can do anymore, but a photo he doesn't sign in front of me, and also we will take a rushed photo together, like where, you know, I'm
Yeah,
like
that's definitely something that's happened. I feel like
Yeah.
that's happened in the past, 7, 8 years or something.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
you
yeah.
do that package where you can get a photo, and you see them all the time online where people are posting stuff. But it's funny because it doing Biff Bang Pow, and having been at the booth at Entertainment Earth, it started to kind of change where, I got the Dexter license.
yeah.
And we had Lebowski.
You all right? Hello? Uh-oh.
Hey, can you hear me, Brian?
Yeah, I sure can now.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe there's something up with my earpiece.
Yeah.
Anyway,
When you had the
You know,
Lebowski license?
so we had the Lebowski license, we had Flash Gordon, and then Dexter sort of became a thing after the first season. And I got in touch with Showtime and talked about the license. They'd never done something like this for any of their shows, to do something in 3 dimensions like a bobblehead we wanted to do. So we got the license. The year before at Comic-Con, they had people out front handing out Dexter bumper stickers.
Yeah.
The following year, because of me getting the license and pushing Showtime, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my horn here, but Showtime had never been down to Comic-Con. And I had some conference calls with people and was telling them just how valuable this thing is, and you need to get that. Well, now we've had this 10-year relationship, and every year they bring people down, or they, they get the signage up at Entertainment Earth and stuff. But it all kind of started because of Dexter, and suddenly Entertainment Earth has, gotten bigger and bigger with the, the talent that sort of gets attracted. But anyway, so we did this bobblehead of Dexter. The first thing we did a blood splattered one, and it was, I don't know, we did we did 500 or 1,000 of them or something for Comic-Con. And we just had to do a minimum each day because people were going crazy. And then, like I said, the year before they had bumper stickers, and now this year they brought talent down. Julie Benz came to the booth, and yada yada. So one morning, I think it was Saturday morning, maybe. I think I told you this a long time ago, but maybe I told it in the show. I don't remember. It was before the show opened, and I come up. I'm looking at stuff in the cases. And there's the Dexter thing, and I'm just kind of, overlooking what we have in the front cases. And I look to my right, and it's Colin Baker.
Oh, yeah.
Is standing there. And I, of course, turned to him, and I said, "Oh, Colin Baker." I said, "Oh, hello. Couldn't have been nicer." And he said, "Oh, I just love this." this is so I love the show. I'm obsessed with the show. And I said, well, that's, we do that here. That's something that, we make. And I explained the whole thing. And, I'm having this moment of going, Colin Baker is not my doctor by any means.
No.
But it is one of those time travel moments where I'm going, this is really weird. This is suddenly Colin Baker is talking about this stuff. And I mean, I was at a convention back in '85, seeing him and Patrick Troughton argue on stage and do their shtick.
Yeah.
Anyway, I said, well, Julie Benz is coming today. He couldn't believe it. Oh, my goodness, well, what time? What time is she coming? And I told him what time, and he said, I can't. I'm signing down here at that time. Oh my God! I said, I'll tell you what. I will get you an autograph. I'll grab you a bobblehead and I'll get you an autograph. Would you? No, you wouldn't do that. I said, yes, no, I'll do it. I'll take care of it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And I did. So I grabbed the bobblehead for him. Julie Benz came. I told the whole story to her, and she wrote, Colin, I miss you so much, or something, Julie Benz. And I brought it down to the table he was at. And I said, Colin, you remember me? He said, hello. I said, look what I have. And he went insane. Like, he could not believe that I took the time to get this autograph for him. And I gave him the bobblehead and everything. And I remember he turned to me and said, do you know what? Very few people say they're going to do something and actually do it.
Yeah.
I can't believe you did this. And I said, I'm trying to say, look, it's nothing. Like, it's not a big, but he just made his day. And I said, well, look at these photos. And I pointed to one that was the seersucker suit that he wore. And I said, with Nicola Bryant. And I said, because I told him that I was a fan of the show and I watched it as a kid and everything. And I pointed to the picture. I said, that's from the press conference where you were announced, right? And he said, ooh, your geek is showing.
Yeah.
You know this. And he said, pick a photo. And I picked one of him, like, with the umbrella or something, sitting on a wall or something like that. And that was all there was.
Yeah.
That was all there was to pick from. They were all crap. And so he signed it for me, and that was it. And that was my, it's one of those moments where, we had Shatner at the booth, Dirk Benedict and Richard Hatch, obviously the stuff like, the Venture Brothers guys and, stuff like that. And Richard, Dean Anderson, no, shit. Richard, Oscar Goldman.
Richard Anderson.
Richard Anderson.
Yeah, who I was just watching last
came
night
one
in
year.
the documentary.
We wanted Lee Majors. Lee Majors wanted about $15 million.
Which is
come to
that's
the booth.
2.5 Lee Majors.
It is. And Richard Anderson could not have been nicer. And he was, he made an action figure, and he thought it was really cool. And
yeah,
and
that's a great
I talked
figure.
to him about. Thank you. I talked to him about working with Stanley Kubrick, which was very cool, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And suddenly that giddiness that we had, there's a way to get that back. That giddiness that we had as kids, you sitting next to Jon Pertwee, or him sitting next to you, or meeting Mary Tam, and suddenly going, oh my God, I can't believe she came out of the television and she's right here.
Yeah.
And it still happens. There's still that.
Like, I never stopped
that
going
kind of
to the
giddiness.
cons, and I never will.
Yeah.
Every year I say I won't go to the big one, like our version at SDC, which is called Fan Expo here. And every year they get somebody, that I kind of want to meet them. Like one year it was John Saxon. This year I was kind of in the free and clear, but then I guess they're going to have Lucy Lawless, and my wife wants to go meet Lucy Lawless. So, yeah.
I want to meet Lucy Lawless.
I'd
like to meet Lucy Lawless. I'd like to have dinner with Lucy Lawless.
They've got rare holdout Renee O'Connor.
Do you have a lot of autographs then?
Yeah, I have quite a few.
Encounters?
I don't have as many as you'd think, but yeah, I've got some that I'm really proud of that I really like. I mean, my children theater days, I've got some obscure people who haven't shown up or have since passed away, like Robert Clark and David Friedman and Robert Quarry and Gunnar Hansen, and people like that. And then I've met a few people over the years. What about you? You have a lot of autographs, or?
I do. I was looking through this binder the other day, and I do have some strange. I've got like River Phoenix autographs. Like, I knew this guy that worked at Paramount for a while, and he he would corner people and have them sign stuff for me for,
Oh, yeah?
just, I'm not sure what reason it was, but I've got, like, De Niro and Joe Pesci and River Phoenix wrote this big message to me, and, stuff like that. But there's a lot of stuff that I've, like meeting Dirk Benedict, I bought his book. He's got a book called And Then We Went Fishing. And it's he's talking his whole life and how he beat, cancer and this macrobiotic diet and all these things. And it's really kind of an interesting book. But that guy could just not stop talking.
Yeah.
Like, he just, and then to have him and Richard Hatch there, got their autographs together, like, that was such a big show for me as a kid. Like, I mean, even talking about it now is just so weird.
Yeah.
To think of these two guys, like, there's been a lot. I mean, Shatner was the one, I think, at the booth that just freaked me out, because
Shatner.
You think the whole day it just was like, whatever. William Shatner's coming by, like, big deal. And then it got to be like 30 minutes before, when he was literally just going to show up, say hi, and then disappear. And suddenly he was there, and I just instantly turned into a kid thinking of Star Trek and watching Star Trek, and everything just kind of flooded back. And he looked at the Mystic Seer, the Twilight Zone thing we did, the full-scale replica, and I've got the prototype signed by Shatner. I have it. And he talked about it a little bit, put his arms around us and took some photos, and, then he was gone. And it was just like, wow, that was something, and
it was like come and gone too, right? Like, it was a blink of an eye.
Yeah. Yep, in and out, done. And then when the Twin Peaks cast came last year, I kind of lost my mind, because that show was so important to me. There's that. Yeah, so I got autographs from a bunch of people, and it's just a cool. It's just I don't know. It's kind of cool being on the other side of it. To kind of be at the booth and watch the people. I mean, they're so happy about what we're doing, and, like, meeting these people and getting stuff and whatever. And it's kind of come full circle with
that's
going
the
to
ultimate
these
fan experience, to be then producing this stuff. Right.
Yeah, kind of. I don't mean, it sounds like I'm, I got a big head, but it's and Sam Jones. Sam Jones was another one. This was a few years ago, and because now Entertainment Earth is a two-story booth. So you can go upstairs and sort of overlook the whole place, and you feel like, a Roman.
Yeah.
And Sam Jones was there, and he started talking to me, because we were going to have him at the booth, and he started talking, and, I'm not, like, nervous around him, because I've met him before, and it's like, oh, okay, it's Sam Jones. But he's talking to me about this documentary, which eventually got made in 9 minutes, and it's called Life After Flash. I think it's going to be on Netflix soon or something.
Oh, God.
The whole thing is about the phenomenon and his life and everything. And it's, with Rich Fulcher. He and I got interviewed together, and we're in the thing. Anyway, he's sitting there, and he starts talking about this documentary, and, he said, would you mind telling me why Flash Gordon is so important to you, why you love it so much? And I said, sure. And then he said, well, let's film it. And we're sitting at this table, and someone's filming this, 10-minute conversation where I'm telling him how important this movie was, because I was so depressed when Han Solo got frozen that it wasn't until Flash Gordon came out that it sort of lifted my spirits, and I had another hero, and wanted more movies and everything, and I suddenly just kind of started to panic, like, this is weird. This is so weird that I'm telling the guy that's in the movie, it's not him, it's not like, wow, it's Sam Jones, what a human being, I can't believe, he's a very nice man, don't get me wrong, but it's that time travel thing where I can't believe I'm sitting here, the kid that watched this movie, went to the theater and loved it, and the guy that's him is sitting here asking me why I love this thing so much. And I got a little emotional, I'm not going to lie. It was a really freaky experience that I hope people have, with whatever they do, that they stop and have those moments of whatever work they do or whatever to think back to stuff like that and just kind of get a chill. It was pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
That's what it's all about, right? Yeah.
I think so. I think it is. I mean, you said something on the show once that was really great. Unfortunately, I can't remember precisely what you said,
but it was something about it's harder to latch on to positive memories or happy sort of memories
than it is a negative.
I
think negatives
like,
stick to us quicker than positives. Like, we actually have to really, like, positives, we actually have to hold them down to make them work. And that's why when we do have a positive, like in childhood or something, it's so vivid because we've really hit record on our brain. And, and
right.
You know, we need to do more of that in life. I kind of wanted to end this one with a story of my most recent autograph because I think it's perfect and funny. Sonny Chiba was signing at Chiller Theater this April.
Oh,
and of course, it was on my daughter's 13th birthday. I am going nowhere. I am especially not going to go traipsing across the East Coast down to New Jersey to get Sonny Chiba's on.
Why didn't you invite
I thought about
the birthday
that,
party?
but
that
we don't really know each other all that well. In the fact that I'm a complete stranger
and
I don't have his email address. Right. I think this is his second signing in the United States ever. I am a humongous fan. Like, I have a Sonny Chiba poster in this office right now. And
of course you
do. The lovely Mike from VampireRobot.com, TheVampireRobot.com. Shop there often, please. TheVampireRobots.com. sending you all to a porn.
Wow, that was dangerous.
He
that was dangerous.
Kind of reached out to me on Facebook and said, "Well, I can get you an autograph, no problem. I know the people at Chiller, no worries." And so we touched base during the show, and
wow,
I did kind of like, just on the Saturday of the show, kind of, are we still cool? And he wrote back. He said, yeah, I got this. Then Sunday, I got an email, and he's like, I have good news and bad news. And I'm like, all right. And he goes, good news is I got you a Sonny Chiba autograph, and it's free. Bad news is he thinks your name was Paul. So, and I wrote him back and I said I'm okay with that.
That is fantastic.
On my wall,
it's funny you say that. Yeah. God, you just jarred a memory. It's funny you say that. I was at a convention once. You know what? I was at a table with Huckabone. This is 100 years ago when he first moved out here. He came out here. And he got me into the show, and he said, come on, you can help me. And all I did really was stand behind the table and try to answer questions. And, he had these things he wanted to sell, and the other people, had... Okay, but Mark Hamill is at this thing. And there was another friend, either a friend of mine or a friend that I forget. And I said, could you do me a favor? Would you mind standing in line? I'll give you the money to do it. I'll buy you lunch or whatever, but here's the money for the autograph. But would you mind? I don't even know. You know what? I don't even know if I had to give money back then. I don't know. This was 96 or something, so I don't know if they were charging or not. But Mark Hamill was there, and of course, a massive line and a ton of people. And he did it. This guy was like, okay, no problem. I'll do it. And I'll never forget him walking up to me. And he had this look on his face, and I'm like, "Oh, you didn't work. You didn't get." He said, "No, I got it." And he handed it to me, and it said, "Mark, thanks for all the wish, happy day or whatever." Mark Hamill, and he said, "I go, what? And he said, "No, I told him. I said Jason," and he wrote the wrong name on this photo. So. And it's not even close to Jason. It's not Jansen. It's not, it's it was like Mark. And that, so I have that autograph still. I have it. And so I've got Mark Hamill's autograph, but it wasn't to me, apparently.
Yeah.
Same
you
thing.
know what? It's hanging on my wall. I'm thrilled with it because it's Sonny Chiba's autograph, and I wasn't
Sonny
there,
Chiba, man.
So it doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean?
So I guess that we know from this conversation, your probably all-time coolest moment was probably sitting down next to Jon Pertwee at a convention.
He came. Yeah.
Is that your all-time?
I mean, I could
Yeah.
say that getting,
I think so.
talking to Jeffrey Combs when I was half in the bag at one show, or chatting up the Ramones or something like that. But no, I would say the Pertwee thing was when, I was on my game and it worked out well.
I think, I could put all the stuff that's happened with Biff Bang Pow into a big pot and say it's all part of it, because it's like, the thought of getting a license, doing what we do, bringing something to life that hasn't been there before, that kind of thing. It's pretty sexy. And I think that the Sam Jones moment it was right at the 35th anniversary of the movie. And then from there, I ended up hosting the thing in BAFTA, doing the moderating of the thing at BAFTA with the cast and crew and stuff. That's how that whole thing started to happen. But having that moment of that was the first license we got, was Flash Gordon, and making those actions. And that's what connected you and I. Because I wrote to you. People know this.
That's right.
But I wrote to you for the first time because I was so turned on by your website, and the humor and everything was right up my alley. And I sent you a note, and I explained who I was.
That.
And you wrote back and said, "Wow, this is weird. You're not going to believe it, but I just bought your Flash Gordon figures yesterday."
Yeah, I was at a con.
Okay, there you
with
go.
My son, so bringing the whole conversation. Yeah, I found a Ming, I think, at that show, and I hadn't, I had 2 young kids at the time, and I didn't get out much, and I was like, oh my god, they made figures of these, and that was,
That's
some
pretty cool.
lunatic did this.
That is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Maybe one day this show will be so big that you and I will be sitting at a convention signing autographs for our headshots or something, or the mascots that you made, the 2 mascots. We could sign postcards.
The 2 mascots. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, maybe that'll.
And then I can act all disinterested, and and then I can teach a Klingon self-defense class.
And drunk. You can be drunk too, just to get you in the mood.
Well, that's a given.
Oh, you know what's another cool one? I got to say this because it was really special. Just another cool moment, real quick, and you'll appreciate this. Lou Scheimer. Meeting Lou Scheimer.
Oh, me too. Oh, yeah, he was...
God, I got a picture with him, and I don't know if he signed something, I forget. But maybe the book, I don't know. But it was another one of those kind of chilling moments. Steranko, too. Hanging out with Steranko and having him take a picture. And the guy next to him, his hand on the table said, "He doesn't take pictures with men. You know how special this is? Because all he does is chat up women the whole time." So I freaking love Steranko.
Or he's punching Bob Kane.
Escaping from a
the Scheimer thing. Let me tell you about my boo-boo. I came up and I had 2 anecdotes for him, and one was that I had shown my son, all the Super Stretch and Micro Woman and all that, and he would run around going, "I am Micro Woman," which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, wow.
And I thanked him for my love of Tarzan, and he said, "Oh, I love Tarzan." And then I said, as a kid, I used to call them Schemer cartoons because I'd see the name Scheimer, and but I didn't. I still thought his name was Schemer. I'd never heard his name pronounced, and I said, so I'm such a big fan of Schemer cartoons, and they gave me an odd look and smiled, and then I was at a bar that night with friends at San Diego Comic-Con, and just one of my friends went, his name's Scheimer, right? And I'm like, I did not know how to pronounce his name.
Well, back to the whole childhood thing you're talking about. He wasn't in good shape at the time. In fact, right after he spoke to me, his wife turned to me and said, "Yeah, he's got to get back to the hotel. Like, he needs to take his meds or something because he was not in terrific shape at the time." But I told him the same. I said, "Flash Gordon, the animated series, was so important to me. It was such a milestone in my life. How religious I was about this show and watching it every week, and that led to the movie. And someday, maybe I did tell the story in the Flash Gordon episode, how the 2 of them kind of overlap. The animated series and the movie overlap in certain ways. But he was just floored. And then I told him about the action figures, and he said, "Would you send me some? Would you send me some?" And I said, "Absolutely, I will." Got all the information, sent off a Ming and a Flash. I have no idea if anybody, saw them, or if he eventually saw them, because I think he died less than a year later, maybe, or something. Not long
Oh.
after that, he died. But that was pretty freaking cool to tell this guy how much that show meant to me, and that what I'm doing now and making these things. He was pretty knocked out.
That's the bit of it, is when you can thank them or validate them.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about the paying for stuff too. Like, I know it changed, but part of it is, I told you about the Doctor Who thing I did, where somebody was the woman who designed Baker's costume was sitting there.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. She did the maroon one. She did the for his last season, that burgundy one, and did a lot of the Lala Ward stuff. All those designs. And this was the woman that was responsible for it, and she's older. And I bought her a little stack of postcards and had her sign it and give her one. There was a guy next to me who brought up something that he wanted her to sign, that he was getting everybody in the room to sign it. I don't know what it was, something that he made. And she couldn't understand what he was talking about. And her helper said, "This is what he wants you to do." And she said, "Oh," and he said, "No, you shouldn't." And then she finally went, "Okay." And she signed it. And when he walked away, I took out a $20 bill and I said, "This is for him, because you should have."
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "No." I said, No. Because to me, that's kind of like, I mean, I know it's not like I'm, Richie Rich or something, but it's like, it's kind of a way to go, thank you for what you've done. It means a lot to me. And here's $20 for lunch or something. It's kind of cool to be able to do that. So always pay your.
Enjoyed the thing. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So there you go. That
All right.
came full circle.
That
From
was
our first
that was
shows to dealing, and I did some dealing back then too, but it wasn't toys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was smut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smut, half off.
Yeah.
Smut, half off. You're going to be thinking about that. That's a funny frickin' sign.
That's a great sign.
Smut, half off.
It's so honest. It's so wonderful.
So there you go.
All right.
I hope everybody liked this. That was kind of freeform too. They're always freeform, but that was more freeform maybe.
It was started with an idea, and look where it landed us.
Look what we did.
Yeah,
Put the show on right here.
You'll be hearing from us in July again, and I look forward to your comments on Facebook and other
me too.
platforms.
Thank you, everybody.
MySpace, Friendster,
Yeah, Napster, all of it.
AOL.
Thanks everybody
message boards.
for listening, and thank you for all the nice comments.
Yeah.
And
I got to tell you guys, like, I put an episode on YouTube today, and it just made my day. Some of the nice things I heard. It was just
oh wow! How come I never hear those nice things?
because I don't share them with you. They're for me.
Thank you for that. You got some nice comments at Migo Meet. Did we talk about Migo Meet?
We haven't.
Or was that the last episode?
We haven't talked
Do you
about it
wanna-
at all. Yeah, let's do.
Can you say anything about it? Because that's a convention. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks
Tell us
ago,
about
and
Migo
I
Meet.
went into a big post Migo Meet depression after, to be perfectly honest with you, because it was so damn.
Well,
nice.
let's talk about the fun stuff.
No, what I
Migo
mean
Meet
is, it was
stuff.
such an uplifting event. Of course, we had Marty Abrams announcing the return of Migo, which was pretty validating when you've been, keeping the flame alive. Not alone, but
oh no,
as part of a team.
It's amazing. Yeah.
That's pretty exciting, and of course, then it's Migo Meet was never really a convention of. It's more of like a lodge meeting or a get together, and so it's been nice to have these friendships that I've been seeing some of these faces annually since like 2004 when and so
It's gotta be cool.
That's exciting, and I think the things I liked the best were the dinners and the camaraderie, and of course I bought a few cool things, but got great compliments on the show, and of course it couldn't get any better. I got to tell you, if I had to,
that's great.
If I had to end the movie about that would have been the ending. Is that Migo Meet? It was fantastic, and
that's great, man. That's so great.
It was a wonderful.
You should
show.
be really, because you guys put a lot of work into that, and I know people appreciate it, and I was lucky enough to get one of the Migo Meets exclusive figures.
Yeah,
I got Thundar the Barbarian, the Migo Meet one. I think there's only like a dozen that were made, and I couldn't be more excited about it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that I would have wanted as a kid.
Spectre Man, two guys I know
Yes,
made this crazy Spectre Man doll, and I'm very happy that I managed to walk away with one of those. Walked away with some crazy stuff, children's Star Trek outfits and other things I've been showing on on the blog, and not a ton of Mego this Mego meat, but I'm at the point now where there's not a heck of a lot of Mego I need.
I was going to say there can't be much left.
Well, there's lots left, but it's not stuff that does anything for me, right? So you just kind of like,
right.
I'm not going to get into the Waltons, like I've said. So, but I was very, very happy. I was very satisfied. I had a really great experience, and that was more important to me than the toys, you know.
That's awesome, man. That's what it's all about, you know. And by the way, at the end of this, I just want to say, you know, places like Comic-Con and conventions, I mean, I know people can be, you know, overzealous or not cool or whatever, but I mean, when I think of Comic-Con, I think, how do you couldn't do this like a sporting event. Some kind of fight would kick off or something.
Yeah.
You can't get this many people in one place where nothing happens. There have been incidents, there have been some things the past few years that are kind of scary, but when you've got so many people that are so excited and so, I mean, when the doors open, it's like the running of the bulls when these people come in. But everybody's cool. Like everybody's very cool, you know. And I think that says a lot about fandom and the stuff that we love. That you know, I mean, it's these, you know, the convention is where you can, you know, fly your freak flag, you know, and you know, be into whatever you're into, and it's nice to be with like-minded people that speak the same.
There is,
you know, the same language.
A key to happiness is a sense of community, and this definitely helps when you can sit around and all just talk about this crap. It's absolutely wonderful. So
I can't wait for the PodStallions convention in 2020.
I can't either.
That's going to be cool.
Yeah, although I'm going to be in a show.
Yeah, I'll be available, but I'll, you know, Brian can't make
$200 signing fee. I will sign.
Right.
You will not. Do not make eye contact with me.
We should do some autographs. We should get some
sure.
postcards made and do some autographs. We can hold a quiz every episode and see who answers first.
I don't know if
first
I can
listener
still make
to
my mark.
jump.
Yeah,
let's do it.
I had an autograph a copy of Rack Toys at Mego Meet. I've never been comfortable with it, even though I wrote the damn thing. It's like I never know what to write. It's like somebody just handed me a yearbook, you know, and I just never know what to do.
I've done that a couple times with action figures where people come up. I've been on a couple of panels and they come up and they go, "Would you sign?" And I immediately go, "You know, this is going to be worthless once I sign it. Like it's
this.
not. I've wrecked your toy once I put my pen on here." But you know, I just give a big doctor signature, like a big giant cool signature, but. Yeah, we'll do the pod. Did you sign my book, by the way, my Rack Toys book?
I have no idea.
I think you did.
Probably.
I think you did. Yeah, I think you did. You better have. If not, I'm sending you my copy.
I generally sign like a child. That's all for us this week, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
All right.
See you.
Speak soon. Bye.
Bye.